Hi Pompano Beach, it's Vice Mayor Allison Fournier. Today I want to talk to you about downtown financing. You've probably been hearing a lot about this from the city and other advocates of the downtown project. There is a narrative out there that certain commissioners have cost you $100 million. I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the differences between the public and private financing options that we're considering. I'm going to do it in 2 video segments because this is so complicated. In this first segment, we'll talk about the public financing option that the commission voted on. Now, the first question I have is, would you take on over $130 million of debt backed by the full faith and credit of the city of Pompano Beach if you didn't know what you were spending it on? I can't. So the first thing we're spending it on is a new city hall. We don't have a design for it, and I've heard from a lot of you that you don't think it's necessary. At the same time, this is supposed to be the anchor for our project, and the experts have weighed in and said that it might not be the best anchor for a downtown, and long term, maybe we don't need this building, so they're designing it with the intention of potentially repurposing it in the future. That doesn't seem like a good investment to me. Second, we'll be building a parking garage, which would be required. And third, and most controversial, is the E.Pat Larkin Center. Over the last year, the city has deployed this strategy of pitting people against each other and agitating in the Northwest instead of actually going out and doing a real data-driven, comprehensive study to determine what the community wants and whether we need a new Pat Larkin Center or not. So while I appreciate everyone's opinions on the topic, it's really hard to vote based on the opinions of people coming to the microphone. I need more than that in order to make a good decision about the E.Pat Larkin Center. And I've asked the city to do that, and they have yet to produce anything. So I don't know if we're getting a new E.Pat Larkin Center. So for me to issue $130 million of debt that you are obligated to repay, and I don't even know what we're going to do with the proceeds, doesn't seem responsible. Let's talk about the payment part of that. You, the taxpayers of Pompano Beach, and your children are going to be responsible for paying this debt over the next 30 years. How do you do that? Well, the plan is that the CRA will issue another $64 million of debt that will help build out the infrastructure in the 75 acres of this downtown. And then the developer will take these pads and sell them to other developers to build offices, hotels, apartments, and the city and the developer will split those proceeds. The city will use our share to pay down our debt in addition to the taxes that are generated off of this new development. So that is how we will service the debt. However, there is so much risk to that. What if the sales on these pads don't materialize like expected? What if it takes longer or generates less? Well, you're still on the hook to pay this debt. So the only way to do that would be likely with a dramatic increase in your millage rate that you or your kids would have to pay. I am not okay with that. So the master developer agreement that we entered in outlines this whole plan for the debt, and the city did have the option to issue this public debt that is lower interest rate and cheaper. However, I don't think we're there yet. So by default, the master developer agreement goes back to a private financing model, and that I will explain in the next video. But I believe that we were forced to take a vote on this, and it was a false choice. We were given a binary option. You either issue this public debt or the developer will go out and issue private financing that costs more. I don't think that's actually what's going to happen here, and we'll talk more about that in the next video. Stay tuned. Bye.